Well, hello, Professor McEwen here, and each week I'll have a weekly video that's looking at the discussions and what I'm looking for that you should be writing about in the discussions. So let's first look at, since this is your first discussion, and it's very important you submit it. Even if you're like, I don't know what he's talking about, I don't know what he was looking for. Here's something that I was told, and it's from a very great philosopher. That piece of crap that you don't want to turn in because you think, wow, it's a piece of crap, it's going to get a higher grade than the perfect one that only exists in your head. And not only that, you'll see the mistakes that you did make, and therefore learn from them and not make the same mistakes over. So it's always important to watch the weekly video, and I would say it's also important to read the comments I left. Okay? So let's get ready. So here we see the discussion responses. Now you need at least 2 paragraphs. That's the minimum. You could write more than 2, but yes, even if you almost like, well, I answered the question, but it's 1 paragraph. Well, you can't follow the directions, and therefore you're going to lose 15 points. I know I sound mean, but part of college is also preparing you how to be professional. At least 200 words, and yes, I am a stickler. So if you write 199 words, you won't get a passing score. Properly cited in the Chicago Manual of Style, and the only sources, and this is an example, any source that you use either from the textbook or my videos. Now, you watch the weekly video in order to get an idea what I'm looking for, but you can't cite that. What you would cite is my lecture videos that are found in the content section. So as you see here, history does not repeat itself, but sure does rhyme a lot with the number 1. You're only allowed 4 endnotes total, no more than 15 words. And of course, to reiterate, the only sources are the textbook and the video lectures. So that's how you're going to be graded. 2 paragraphs, 15 points each, at least 100 words. Facts and analysis. What is analysis? Well, basically, you can state a fact, and then you analyze what that fact means. And yes, I count off for spelling. And good Lord, if you want to get me in a bad mood on your discussion, don't capitalize United States. Just leave it in small letters, okay, and see how that works for you. Okay, please, look at that. Periods of history, nations, and common nouns are capitalized. Endnotes. Now, if you don't have any endnotes, even though you might have a brilliant discussion, you will not get a passing grade. And make sure you submit it with plenty of time to respond. Few students wait until the last minute, literally, and then they lose 10 points, and sometimes they have an excellent discussion, so don't do that. So let's look at the first discussion, shall we? Limiting civil rights. What rights did the 14th and 15th Amendment guarantee to African Americans? So that's the first part of the question. You talk about what's in the 14th and the 15th Amendments. This will be found in Chapter 16 and also the video lecture 16, where I go over the 14th and 15th Amendment. The second part of the question you'll find in Chapter 18 on the New South, and the lecture video, the New South and the New West. What legal steps did Democrats in the South take in the late 19th century, 1875 to 1900, to limit those rights? Okay, so that's what we're going to look at. So, in looking at the first part of the question, the 14th Amendment guaranteed equal protection under the law. 15th Amendment guaranteed African males the right to vote. So you just go and look, almost repeat what I just said in a lot of ways, and you can talk about the struggle to getting those passed and actually put into the Constitution. So now we have African Americans. They're U.S. citizens. The men have the right to vote. Now, in the late 19th century, you're going to look at what did the Southern Democrats do to get rid of the right to vote and also bring about segregation. Well, when we look at segregation, you must write about Plessy v. Ferguson, because Plessy v. Ferguson is what creates segregation and the Jim Crow laws. That takes away the rights earned in the 14th Amendment of equal protection under the law, separate but equal, so-called. The 15th Amendment, well, trying to get them not to vote, well, that has to deal with African American males. In this point in time in history, they always voted for the Republican Party. And Southern Democrats did not like that. So what steps did they take? You could write about the Mississippi plan. And why is this legal? Well, because under the Constitution, states are given the right to determine what qualifies you to vote. But they have to write in their laws something that would not be discriminatory. Because if they wrote the word about a race, then therefore that'd be discriminatory and that'd be a violation of the 15th Amendment. So you got to include everybody. How did they do that? Well, they did things such as poll taxes, explain the poll tax, grandfather clauses, which is very, very important to go into and explain, and literacy clauses. So that's what I'm looking for in this week's discussion. So stay tuned next week to find out what I'm looking for in next week's discussion.